July 1192, Jaffa. The Muslim army had captured the city from the Crusaders a couple of days ago. But before they could secure the entire city, more than 50 ships appeared on the horizon. Leading the armada was none other than Richard of England. As the Crusaders stormed inside Jaffa, the Muslims had to retreat from the city. And with that, the victory at Jaffa was undone.
This is the story of Saladin from Islamic history perspective.
Once Acre fell into the hands of the Crusaders, the Muslims were forced to step back. The Crusaders pushed further into the Muslim territories towards Arsuf. While the Crusaders were marching along the coast, the Muslim light archers continued to harass them by firing arrows. But this time, the result was not the same as the Battle of Hattin. Crusader ships were also moving along the coast, providing supplies to the marching army, so the strength of the Crusader army could not be broken. On September 11, 1191, the Crusaders reached the outskirts of Arsuf. Saladin decided to have another round of battle with the Crusaders before the Crusaders could capture the city. As soon as the armies lined up, the first line of the Crusader troops led the charge. The Muslims resisted valiantly, but soon more Crusaders joined the offense. Still, the Muslims held their ground. Finally, another wave of Crusaders rushed in to fight the Muslims. Unfortunately, this time the Muslims could not resist anymore. The Muslim defense line broke down. To save the strength of his army, Saladin had to order a strategic retreat, otherwise his whole army could have been slaughtered. Arsuf was taken by the Crusaders the following day. With the Muslims retreating, the coastal areas became defenseless against the Crusaders. So in the next few days, the Crusaders took control of all the coastal areas from Tyre to Jaffa. Saladin knew that if he fought the Crusaders again in an open battle, his army would lose again, as it had already become significantly weak after the last two defeats, once in Acre, another in Arsuf. So he decided to focus his whole military strength on protecting Jerusalem. Muslim soldiers stationed at Ascalon were ordered to destroy the defense of the city and move back to Jerusalem. The hope was that the Crusaders would then move to capture Ascalon rather than directly marching towards Jerusalem. This would give enough time to Saladin to prepare his defense in Jerusalem. Saladin's plan worked. The Crusaders took the easier way. They advanced towards the rich, poor city of Ascalon instead to Jerusalem. By the time the Crusaders secured the city of Ascalon, the winter already began. Cold weather and shortage of food prevented both armies from attacking each other. Saladin used this time to strengthen the Muslim defense. He again asked for help from different parts of the Muslim world. Luckily, this time, some help came from distinct Muslim rulers. At the same time, the Crusader leaders elected Conrad of Montferrat to be the next king of Jerusalem, thinking that they would take the city from Muslim hands very soon. Both Richard and Philip had to return to their own kingdoms after the crusade was over, so Conrad would be put in charge to take control of the Crusader state after that. However, the assassins killed some high-ranking Crusader leaders during the same winter, including Conrad of Montferrat. We do not know if this was done on Saladin's order or not, but this was definitely helpful for Muslim resistance. Conrad's death created chaos among the Crusader leaders. During the same time, letters were exchanged between Richard and Saladin for a peace treaty, but both parties wanted total control of Jerusalem, so no agreement was reached. After the winter was over, the Crusaders started marching towards Jerusalem in the spring of 1192. Back in Jerusalem, Saladin was also prepared to offer the best resistance. He ordered his troops to destroy all the crop fields and poison all the water wells up to 10 kilometers from Jerusalem. This was done to prevent the Crusaders from getting supplies from the nearby places if they would lay siege to Jerusalem. In June of 1192, the Crusaders reached a location that was only 1 day's march away from Jerusalem. But here, they realized that they would not have any supply of resources from the region if they would continue any further. Richard did not want to put his army in Saladin's trap, so he ordered his troops to turn back. Thus, Saladin's plan protected Jerusalem twice in 2 years from the attack of the Crusaders. However, Saladin would not sit idle. He decided to take advantage of the situation. Saladin led his army out of Jerusalem to Jaffa. In July of 1192, the Muslims attacked the defense of Jaffa with full force. They heavily bombarded the city walls and could break into the city only after 3 days of battle. The remaining Crusader soldiers of Jaffa took shelter in a citadel and continued fighting. But the early success of the Muslims created some indiscipline among the Muslim soldiers. Instead of securing their position in the city, they started to plunder the city. Richard took this chance. He sailed with 55 ships full of soldiers from Ascalon and reached Jaffa before the Muslims could capture the citadel. With the sudden attack by Richard, the Muslims lost control of Jaffa and had to retreat again. Although the mission of Jaffa was not a success for the Muslims, it showed the Crusaders that the Muslims would use every opportunity to do as much damage as possible to the Crusaders. Soon after the Battle of Jaffa, Philip had to return to France to secure his power. Richard also got the news that his throne was also under threat. It was simply not possible for the European Crusader kings to continue fighting indefinitely. And Saladin knew that very well as well. However, Saladin also could not continue fighting the Crusaders indefinitely as his own resources started dwindling. So both parties agreed to negotiate a treaty. Saladin had the upper hand in negotiation and he forced the Crusaders to leave the total control of Jerusalem in Muslim hands. The Crusaders also had to agree to leave Ascalon. With this treaty, the Muslims gained most of the lost territories back. Only the coastal cities of Jaffa, Caesarea, Haifa, and Acre remained under Crusader control. With clever diplomacy, Saladin reduced the Crusader influence to a thin strip of land along the coast. Thus, the Crusaders ultimately failed in their mission, and Saladin kept the crown jewel, Jerusalem. However, Saladin promised the Christian pilgrims would be able to safely visit Jerusalem and their other holy sites. In the October of 1192, Richard went back to England, and Saladin returned to Damascus. And with that, 3 years of continuous fighting of the Third Crusade came to an end. Finally, peace was established. Saladin kept his promises of the treaty and provided safe passage to the Christian pilgrims. After a lifetime on the battlefields, Saladin could now finally enjoy some peace for the rest of his life. On the 4th of March of 1193, this great Muslim leader breathed his last. Surprisingly, it was found after his death that he did not have enough money in his own possession even for his own funeral. Such was the benevolence of Saladin. He gave away his whole life for the Ummah and kept nothing for himself. Today, this beloved Sultan lies in the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus. Saladin's life shows us yet again how Muslims can achieve great things for the Ummah when they unite for a common goal under a capable leader. From the Battle of Badr to modern times, this has been proven time after time. Today, the Ummah waits the next Saladin to march them again to victory.